The afternoon sun hung low, casting long golden shadows across the cracked asphalt of Hawthorne Road. The air smelled of gasoline, fried food, and summer dust, that kind of still heat that makes even time feel heavy. And then, the sound came, a deep rumble vroom vroom, echoing through the silence. 3 bikes rolled up in front of Jack's Roadhouse, the kind of place that smelled like beer, smoke, and bad decisions. The bikers killed their engines, leather vests flashing patches that read, Iron Wolves. Inside, a few locals looked up from their beers. Conversations faded. Everyone knew the wolves, they were trouble on 2 wheels. Then the door creaked open again. A woman stepped in, late 30s maybe, worn jeans, military boots, and a weathered leather jacket. Her hair was pulled back tight, streaks of gray glinting under the neon light. She moved slowly, one hand gripping a metal cane, the other holding a small duffel bag. Her name was Evelyn Carter, and if you looked closely, you'd notice the Navy emblem on the pin attached to her jacket. The room went quiet for a heartbeat. Then one of the bikers, tall, scarred face, dark sunglasses, gave a low whistle. "Well, look at this," he muttered. "Grandma's out for a drink." A few of them laughed. Evelyn didn't even blink. She walked straight to the counter and set down her bag. The bartender, John, a quiet man in his 50s, leaned forward nervously. "Afternoon," Evelyn said. Her voice was calm, too calm. "Can I get a coffee?" "Coffee?" The scarred biker chuckled. "Honey, this ain't Starbucks." She looked at him, expression unreadable. "Didn't ask for a latte," she said. "Just coffee." That got a few snickers from the crowd. But her tone, steady, unshaken, made the laughter die quicker than anyone expected. Still, the biker stepped closer, invading her space. "You got some mouth on you." John glanced around helplessly. "Hey, maybe just let her." The biker slammed his palm on the counter. "Stay out of this, old man." Evelyn's hand tightened on her cane. For a moment, her eyes drifted to the window. The reflection showed her face, the faint scar near her temple, the way her fingers trembled just slightly. Not fear. Memory. She'd seen faces like his before, in places that smelled of sand, gunpowder, and death. He reached for her duffel bag. "What's in here, sweetheart?" "Maybe I'll..." Click. Her cane shifted. The sound was subtle, mechanical. Everyone froze. "Touch that bag," she said quietly, "and you'll regret it." The biker hesitated, but then smirked. "What? You gonna hit me with your stick?" Evelyn leaned forward, voice barely a whisper. "Try me." Silence filled the room like thick smoke. Even the jukebox crackled to a stop. For a second, nobody moved. Then, in a blur, the biker reached and Evelyn swung. The metal cane connected with his wrist. Crack. He howled, stumbling back, his sunglasses flying off. Chairs scraped. Someone cursed. Evelyn stood firm, cane steady, eyes locked. The other bikers rose from their seats, anger flashing in their eyes. John whispered, "Lady, you should go. Now." Evelyn exhaled slowly. "It's too late for that." Outside, a single bike engine roared again, this one different. Deeper. Heavier. She turned toward the sound, and a small, knowing smile crossed her lips. 20 minutes, she murmured. "Right on time." The bikers froze, confused. "What the hell does that mean?" Evelyn's gaze hardened. "You're about to find out." And with that, the front doors of Jack's Roadhouse burst open. To be continued. If you were in that bar when Evelyn stood her ground, would you have stepped in? Or stayed silent? The doors slammed open with a force that made the old hinges shriek. Dust swirled in the sunlight as 4 men stepped inside, broad shoulders, calm eyes, and that unmistakable quiet authority of men who'd seen too much and said too little. They didn't need to speak. The room felt their presence. The tallest one, Robert Hale, a Navy SEAL with a face carved from stone, scanned the scene. Evelyn stood by the counter, cane steady, a ring of angry bikers circling her. He exhaled once. "We're late." Evelyn gave a faint smirk. "By about 20 minutes. The scarred biker, still clutching his wrist, sneered. Who the hell are you? Robert's gaze cut to him. You don't want to know. But of course, the wolves didn't back down easily. Their leader, Mick Turner, swaggered forward, muscles straining under his leather vest, a tattoo of a wolf's head snarling across his neck. This your boyfriend's squad? He taunted. We were just having a little fun. Robert stepped closer, voice low, steady. That woman, he said, nodding toward Evelyn, served this country. She's bled for it. And you call that fun? For a heartbeat, nobody spoke. The only sound was the slow creak of the ceiling fan spinning overhead. Then Mick laughed. Sharp, loud, cruel. You think your uniforms scare me? He didn't see Michael Reyes, the SEAL standing behind him, move until it was too late. A quick motion, a twist of the wrist, and Mick's arm was pinned behind his back before he even realized what happened. Not here to scare you, Michael said quietly. Just to teach you manners. The bar erupted in chaos. Chairs toppled, glass shattered, shouts filled the air. Evelyn stepped back, eyes darting between the blur of motion. The SEALs moving like shadows, every strike measured, every movement precise. They weren't fighting to hurt. They were fighting to end it fast. John ducked behind the counter, trembling. Sweet mother of mercy, he whispered. One by one, the wolves hit the floor, groaning, swearing, or simply stunned by how fast it happened. In less than 2 minutes, the noise died. Silence. Only the sound of heavy breathing and a beer tap dripping slowly onto the floor remained. Robert straightened, brushing glass from his sleeve. You all right, Ev? Evelyn nodded, her grip loosening on the cane. You took your time. He smiled faintly. You always did have a habit of starting without us. That earned the first real laugh from her in a long time. It echoed softly through the ruined bar. Mick struggled to his knees, spitting blood. You think this is over? He snarled. You don't know who you're dealing with. Robert crouched beside him, voice dropping to a whisper. Neither do you. And then he pulled out something from his pocket. A small, worn coin, gold, etched with the SEAL trident. He flipped it onto Mick's chest. Next time, Robert said, remember that coin before you touch another veteran. The bikers stayed silent, eyes wide, unsure whether to move or not. Evelyn turned to the bartender. Sorry about the mess, John. Put it on my tab. John blinked. Ma'am, I don't think I'm charging you for this one. As they stepped out into the fading light, the roar of bikes echoed again. Not from the wolves this time, but from a convoy of military Harley-Davidsons pulling up behind them. Reinforcements. Robert looked at Evelyn. You sure you're done with this life? She hesitated, watching the sun dip below the horizon. I thought I was. He nodded slowly. Then maybe it's not done with you yet. The wind picked up, carrying the faint smell of oil and dust, and something heavier. Promise. Because somewhere down the road, the Iron Wolves weren't finished. Not by a long shot. Like Evelyn. The quiet, broken heroes. Ever truly leave the battlefield behind? Or does it follow them forever? The sun had already sunk behind the hills, leaving Hawthorne Road wrapped in a dim orange haze. The smell of smoke and oil still clung to the air outside Jack's Roadhouse. Evelyn stood by the parking lot, staring into the horizon where the last sliver of light bled away. Her cane pressed lightly against the gravel. Every ache in her leg pulsed like a reminder of war, of scars, of everything she tried to bury. Behind her, Robert and the team loaded up their bikes. The engines growled softly, steady, almost comforting. You should get checked out, Robert said, nodding to her leg. Evelyn gave a half-smile. Been through worse. He studied her face, the way her jaw tightened when she said it. Yeah, he murmured. That's what worries me. For a moment there was peace, the kind that hangs in the air before a storm. But deep down, Evelyn felt it. A ripple of unease crawling under her skin. Because men like Mick Turner didn't just walk away. They regrouped. They waited. They bit back harder. A few miles away, in a rundown mechanic shop behind the gas station, the wolves were doing exactly that. The flicker of a single bulb lit the room. Mick sat on a crate, wrist wrapped in a greasy bandage, eyes burning with rage. That woman, he hissed, humiliated us. Her and her soldier boys. One of his men, Ray, spat on the ground. They ain't local. They'll be gone by morning. Mick slammed his fist against the wall. No, she's still here, and I'm not letting that slide. He leaned forward, face shadowed. We find out where she's staying. We make her regret ever stepping foot in that bar. Outside, thunder rolled across the hills, distant but growing closer. Back at the small motel on the edge of town, Evelyn sat by the window, lights off, a mug of black coffee in her hands. The night was quiet, too quiet. In the reflection, she saw Robert sitting on the other bed, cleaning his gear. The faint click-click of metal filled the silence. You think they'll come? She asked. He didn't look up. They always do. She stared into the darkness. You didn't have to stay. He finally met her eyes. You think I'd leave you to fight this alone? That made her smile, just a little. Same old Robert. He grinned. Same old Evelyn. Then, a faint noise outside. A crunch of gravel. Both froze. Evelyn set down her cup. Robert's hand moved instinctively to the sidearm lying beside him. Another sound. Whispering voices. Tires rolling slowly to a stop. Robert whispered, "They're here." Evelyn nodded. "Told you they wouldn't let it go." She reached under her bed, pulling out a small black case, her personal kit. Inside, a folded knife, a flashlight, and an old military ID. The corners were worn, the picture faded. Robert noticed. "You kept that. Always." Her voice was soft. "A reminder of who I used to be." Outside, shadows shifted past the curtains. A boot scraped the concrete. Robert mouthed, 3, maybe 4. Evelyn gripped her cane tighter. Her pulse slowed, her breathing steadied. The kind of calm that only comes before chaos. Then the front window shattered. Glass exploded inward as a biker crashed through, landing hard on the motel floor. Evelyn swung the cane instinctively. Crack! Striking his knee. Robert was already moving, tackling another man at the door. Muffled shouts. Fists. The dull thud of impact. It was chaos again, but this time on Evelyn's turf. When the noise finally stopped, 3 bikers lay on the floor, groaning. Mick's voice echoed from outside. "This isn't over, Carter. You hear me?" Evelyn stepped to the broken window, blood trickling from her forehead, eyes blazing. "It never is," she whispered. The sound of engines roared as the wolves sped off into the night, their taillights fading into the black. Robert stood beside her, breathing hard. "They'll come back stronger." Evelyn nodded slowly. "Then we'll be ready." The thunder outside cracked louder this time, rolling across the empty highway, and somewhere in the darkness, the wolves were plotting their next move. If someone from your past came back for revenge, would you run? Or would you stand your ground like Evelyn? The motel room smelled faintly of gun oil and burnt dust. Shattered glass still glittered across the floor like tiny pieces of frozen lightning. Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed, holding a cloth against her forehead. Outside, the wind howled softly, carrying the scent of rain and diesel. Robert stood near the door, peering through the broken window. "They'll regroup," he said quietly. "They won't stop until one of us is gone." Evelyn sighed. "Then we make sure it's not us." He looked at her, that same steel in her eyes he remembered from years ago. "Afghanistan, 2010. You know," he said after a pause, "you never told me what really happened. The leg, the discharge, why you disappeared." She was silent for a moment. Then she set the cloth aside and leaned back, eyes drifting toward the ceiling. "It was supposed to be a simple recon," she said softly. 4 of us. Sandstorms were rolling in. We were tracking insurgents near the ridge. Her voice dropped lower. But it wasn't just insurgents. They had intel on us down to our route, our timing. We walked straight into an ambush. Robert didn't interrupt. He knew that tone, the one soldiers used when memory turned to pain. "They hit us hard," she continued. "We lost Harris in the first blast. I tried to drag him out, but Her voice cracked slightly. Then something hit my leg. I woke up 2 days later at Bagram, and they told me it was over. My team was gone. Silence hung between them. Robert finally said, "You did what you could." Evelyn's jaw tightened. Not enough. The wind outside grew stronger, rattling the window frame. Thunder rolled again, closer this time. Robert turned back. "You think these wolves knew who you were?" Evelyn shook her head. "No. But someone told them." That thought lingered, heavy and dangerous. Later that night, Evelyn stepped outside. The rain had started, light at first, then steadier. Each drop tapped against her cane like a metronome. Across the empty parking lot, headlights flared. A black pickup truck slowed to a stop. A man stepped out, tall, clean-cut, wearing a dark coat. His voice was calm but sharp as a blade. "Evelyn Carter?" She tensed. "Who's asking?" He flashed an old badge. "Commander Reeves, Naval Intelligence." Robert appeared behind her, hand instinctively brushing his sidearm. "What's this about?" Reeves studied them both. "We've been tracking a group smuggling stolen military tech. The Iron Wolves are part of it. And you, Miss Carter." He paused, his gaze narrowing. "You were on their radar before today." Evelyn frowned. "Why?" Reeves glanced toward her duffel bag, the same one she'd carried into Jack's roadhouse. "Because of what's in there." She froze. Robert looked at her sharply. "Ev, what's in the bag?" Her lips parted, but no words came. Reeves took a step closer. "You didn't tell him, did you?" The rain grew heavier, thunder rumbling like a warning drum. Inside that duffel, hidden under spare clothes and a worn Bible, lay a classified data drive, something Evelyn had taken years ago from a fallen comrade, something never meant to see daylight. And now someone wanted it back. Far away, in the dark belly of an old warehouse, Mick Turner stared at a message on his cracked phone screen. The text read, "Retrieve the drive. Leave no witnesses." He grinned through his busted lip. "Looks like we've got government friends now." He tossed the phone aside and loaded his gun. "Let's end this." "Would you have done what Evelyn did? Risk everything to protect a secret you weren't supposed to carry?" The storm hit hard by dawn. Rain poured down in heavy sheets, blurring the horizon into a gray curtain. The motel sign flickered weakly. Vacancy, vacancy. Inside, Evelyn and Robert moved with quiet urgency. Weapons loaded, bags packed. Reeves stood by the door, his coat soaked, voice tight with tension. "They're coming. I've got a team on the way, but it'll take 20 minutes. Evelyn smirked faintly. "Funny. That's about how long they lasted last time." Robert gave her a look. "Ev, this isn't a bar brawl. These guys mean business." She nodded, eyes sharp. "So do we." Minutes passed like hours. Every sound outside, the crash of thunder, the squeal of tires, felt like the start of something. Then engines. Dozens of them. The wolves. Headlights pierced through the storm as bikes and trucks circled the motel like predators closing in on prey. Robert checked his ammo. Reeves positioned himself near the door, radio pressed to his ear. Evelyn stood by the window, her cane in one hand, and a small pistol in the other. Her pulse slowed. Her breathing steadied. It felt just like before, that moment right before everything went to hell. Mick's voice boomed from outside, carried by the rain. "Carter, come out and hand over the drive." Evelyn stepped closer to the window. "You'll have to come get it," she shouted back. Mick laughed. "Gladly." The first explosion tore through the parking lot. A flash of orange and sound that shook the walls. The wolves charged. Bullets cracked against the siding. Windows shattered. Reeves yelled into his radio. "SEAL team, we need extraction now." Robert fired back through the window. "They're flanking left." Evelyn moved to cover him, her cane clanging against the floor as she aimed and fired. Each shot was precise, controlled, the kind of discipline you don't forget. But there were too many. Smoke, shouting, tires screeching. The wolves pushed closer, their leader's silhouette visible through the chaos. Mick, gun raised, eyes wild. Then, over the thunder, came a new sound. Choppers. rotors slicing through the storm. Reeves grinned. That's our ride. From above, a spotlight cut through the rain. Navy SEALs descended like phantoms. Ropes dropping, boots hitting wet pavement. In seconds, the fight turned. The wolves panicked. Engines revved. Some fled. Others fired blindly into the air. Mick stood his ground, aiming straight at Evelyn. You should have stayed buried, Carter. She raised her pistol. So should you. 2 shots echoed. Then silence. Rain fell steady now, washing away the smoke and blood. Mick dropped to his knees, then to the ground. Evelyn lowered her gun slowly. Her breath trembled, but her hand didn't. Robert approached, resting a hand on her shoulder. It's over. She looked up at the hovering chopper, its light blazing against the storm. No, she said softly. It's just over for them. Hours later, the sky cleared. The motel was a ruin, sirens wailing in the distance. Reeves approached Evelyn one last time. We'll take that drive now. She hesitated, then handed it over. Make sure it goes where it should have gone years ago. He nodded. You did the right thing. She gave a faint, tired smile. Tell that to the ghosts. As the SEALs loaded up and the storm broke into soft morning light, Evelyn turned to Robert. So, he said, what now? She looked out at the empty road stretching toward the horizon. Now, she whispered, I finally go home. The wind carried her words away, quiet, resolute, free. Do you believe redemption is earned through action, or through finally letting go of the past?